Oh, hello there, friend! Welcome to the fire. Just how many times do I have to say this? Consent is key. Seriously, how hard is that to understand? Ugh! Maybe the real BBG was the friend we met along the way. R/RPG Horror Stories, posted by PL4GU30F Wasp. Our friend and DM sets up a text-based 5e campaign for us on Discord. We're playing a homebrew campaign with a serious/gritty tone. All of us create our characters accordingly with the exception of one. Here's our party. Names changed. DM, the DM. Ezra, me, High Elf Trickster Cleric. Tom, High Elf Death Cleric. Blaze, Tiefling Wizard. Jenny, Dragonborn Druid, Lemmy. Centaur Druid/Ranger, Drew. Orc Barbarian, Zack. Human Sorcerer, Weaver. Warforged Barbarian, Carl. Tiefling Bard, and the a-hole in the story. Now, I want to preface this. We're all adults here, we've all been friends, or at least friendly with each other, for years. We're all kink positive, and no one cares what you like. We don't shame people. The problem comes along when Carl starts to play. You see, Carl's kink is being a baby. He's balls deep in this fantasy. Diapers, baby powder, bottles, pacifiers, breastfeeding. You name it, he's there. We all know this by virtue of knowing Carl for a few years. Weirdly, he treats his kink like it's a huge, shameful secret that would ruin his life if it got out, but has no problem of making references to it and play acting it all the time. But regardless, this wasn't a problem for any of us until he tried to get us to participate in it without our consent. Well, Carl rolls up the most aggressively naive, lawful stupid, I'm baby character he could possibly muster. His character looks like a tiefling who hails from the realm of Candyland. Picture strawberry shortcake with horns, standing next to a bunch of hardened ex-cons, and you have our party. Everyone, including the DM, is trying their best to make this work because we're all friends and we just want to play some D&D. Enter the kink roleplay. In Carl's very first post as his character, he rolls up to the barmaid at the starting tavern and asks her for some milk, saying that he just finished drinking his bottle on the way into town. Cue a collective "what the F" from the rest of us. But we do our best to RP around him. His character is the most bubbly, squeaky, giggly, aggressively positive person in all of the Forgotten Realms. He invades my character's personal space on multiple occasions and effectively forces her into the corner of any room they're in because she's so preoccupied with trying to get away from him. My character carries a deck of marked cards and uses them to make money. She plays a few hands with the members of the party, wins some gold, and makes some friends. Carl gets jealous. No one is interacting with his posts because they make everyone uncomfortable. He thinks if he acts like my character, he might get some interaction. So he demands that the DM gives his character a deck of cards too. DM, who is a nice person and trying to keep everyone happy and invested in the campaign, allows it. Carl pops back into RP with a clumsy deck of cards he apparently made with paper and crayons and tries to make the party play Go Fish with him. This is met with about as much enthusiasm as you would expect. We push forward and meet our benefactor, and enjoy some good RP and character development over dinner and then a soak in an elaborate bathhouse. Noticeably improved by virtue of Carl saying his character was too baby to take a bath with everyone and exiting RP immediately. Afterwards, we go back to the tavern, shop around town for supplies, and start making plans to retrieve the MacGuffin we've been hired to steal. We're trying to keep things serious, going over the map and determining marching order for our journey to the next town. In the middle of this, Carl returns from the market hauling literally 60 cream pies. He pretended, out of character, that the joke flew over his head. He bought from a crass halfling baker and about 40 pounds of assorted fruit everyone told him not to buy. He then pulls out a kazoo and starts loudly playing. Around this time, Weaver leaves the party, publicly citing time crunch. But it was more because Carl was making her so uncomfortable. We are all very saddened by the loss because Weaver was a great character we really enjoyed RPing with. This is the point where I throw up my hands, mute the chat, and walk away. I've been trying very hard not to ruin anyone else's good time, but Carl is being so aggressively stupid and infantile it's ruining the entire campaign. There's no good way to RP with him in character because if any of our characters met him on the street, they would have been more than likely to rob him and leave him for dead. He adds nothing to the story and doesn't seem interested in anything besides playing pretend baby. DM gets fed up and approaches Carl privately, asking him to tone down the baby shtick and try to work with the tone of the campaign a little. She isn't even asking for big changes, just some minor tweaks to keep things running smoothly and preserve the rest of the party's comfort. Carl doesn't like that. Carl freaks out and refuses to change anything, saying,
"This is who I really am inside. You can't ask me to change myself."
DM says, okay, if you don't want to change your character, how about I help you make a new one? Carl doesn't like that either. He rejects every suggestion or offer of help and finally decides to pull his character out of the campaign. When he makes this decision, he also demands that his character be removed from the campaign by having the other players trick him into going to the market and then stealing his stuff and leaving town without him. All of us are uncomfortable with that, and we tell him so. DM very smoothly puts Carl on a bus in a much nicer way than he deserves, and we continue to play. This entire debacle prompts some of us to go through our private message history with Carl. We start comparing notes and discover that he's been talking shit about almost all of us behind our backs for years. When one of us is succeeding without his help, he hates it because he wants to be depended on. Hindsight is 20/20, and on the reread, the manipulation and gaslighting really start jumping off the page. I go back about 3 years in my message history and find a long-forgotten conversation of Carl telling me he's in love with the DM and wants to serve her like a loyal knight, which opens another whole can of worms. We compare notes further and discover some nastier stuff. Carl has been RPing his kink with almost everyone in our other Discord servers without their knowledge or consent, including minors. I'm a nurse in real life and work with medically fragile infants. Carl would regularly ask me about work in a way that was plausibly friendly. But looking back at it, it became painfully apparent that he wanted to hear about baby stuff to feed his kink. I was and am disgusted by this. There's more, but it's not worth going into here. You get the gist. At this point, we all decide we've had enough. Carl, who had stayed in the game server as a spectator, gets kicked. we cut ties with him and kick and or ban him from all our personal and emoji servers. He changes his status to,
I still love you.
but thankfully never makes us think about it publicly. We ended up going back through the campaign as a group and editing our post to remove all references to Carl and his character. The story is flowing nicely now, with a party who is actually invested in the setting and plot, and we're having a great time. Unfortunately, to this day, I don't think Carl understands what he did wrong. TLDR, party member makes a campaign about his kink, goes nuclear when confronted, and torpedoes 10 plus friendships because he refuses to respect boundaries. Wow. Wow. First off, I just want to say, if you have a fetish or whatever, cool. No kink shaming. But that's also your own personal business, and it's not cool to force others to participate in your kink without their consent, which, in this story, Carl did not get from the group. Furthermore, Carl committed a serious violation of the trust his friends had in him to keep them safe, and that's a betrayal that really bites deep. At least, that's what I think. Oh, and also, I want to say, Carl using OP, who is a nurse that works with medically fragile infants, as fuel for his kink, along with trying to roleplay his kink with minors? Yeah, that's just crossing a line and absolutely disgusting. Ugh! Ugh! But anyway, at least the story had a happy ending, with the group being able to continue on without Carl, and I hope they could create many good memories and moments together. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. And would you kindly follow the socials posted in the description below. As always, be good, be great, be awesome.